Welcome to ANM News, and this is Avijit Nndi Majumdar, and I have with me Dr. Ranjan Singh. He is the Minister of State for External Affairs and Education, Government of India. But more than that, he is the Member of Parliament for Manipur. Yes, we'll be discussing a lot of things about what's going on in Manipur, a lot of this, and clear the air, because there are a lot of propaganda going on, a lot of false narrative which are being published, and really from far we do not know what is the situation in Manipur at the moment. A lot of crossfires. So we will try and get as much as possible from our minister here, and he has been spearheading India's foreign mission abroad. Foreign Ministry is the Minister of State, and he has also visited a lot of foreign countries with India's mission and vision. Welcome to ANM News, Dr. Singh, and how are you doing? Everything else is fine?
That's fine.
Great. Nice to see you. So I'll start off initially with the latest big news of the day. That's Chandrayaan 3. Now, I want to know, what does it mean to India's foreign policy?
Based on Chandrayaan 3?
3, yes.
Yeah, India yesterday proves that India is one of the country scientifically very strong, astronomically excellent, and so we landed yesterday in the southern pole of the moon. That area is never covered by any of the leak of satellites. USA, Russia and China, and India, its own indigenous systems could land it, and that's proof that India has the capability among the rest. But of course we are not the rest, but we are in our own way. The space technology is developing, and that will give a good impact to boost the Indian economy and also to growth in the field of industry. So for example, when I joined as an MP for the first time, I was in the standing committee of the Parliament for Science and Technology and Environment. Through that standing committee, I have a chance to visit all the space research stations based in South. And you know, earlier I also thought that India, how can we afford huge amount on the space, whereas the common minimum infrastructures was not to the level, and we could not deliver to the people as a democratic country. But of course, it has a lot of impact also. Earlier I thought that, just I mentioned it, then, you know, in a common sense, not a spaceman or space scientist, as a common man, I thought that after seeing the space station and their research, say for example in fuel, in our the normal way of the journey, my car, if fuel is less, we can go to the fueling station. But in the space, through a distance of many light years, there is no the refueling stations. But the once filling with that fuel, how it will reach to that with a high speed and high energies. So space scientists is doing research on the fuel, and then I thought that this is only for space. But ultimately, after some times I saw in the petrol pump extra miles, and that the technology and the finding of the research is transferred to the industry, and that is promoted to the commuters and transporters with less the carbon monoxide to the atmosphere, and also
more environment friendly.
More environment friendly, and a small quantity of oil moving
For a distance.
huge distance, and that is one. And number two, also I thought that in the space they told me that color coding. So when the space is moving in a high speed with the frictions of the atmospheric layers, the heating is quick and the burning down, blasting is one of the major problems, as I was conceived with hearing the stories. Then they are doing the fireproof coat color. That also I thought that why this is only for space. But now that after research, the technology is transferred to the industry. Industry has produced the fireproof colors using in our the dwelling house. And this is a simple example I am giving. So doing the research on the space, we have a good benefit given to particularly in the communication system and also the aerial mapping and prediction of weather and prediction of crop diseases, soil, minerals, and even in the deep oceans mineral also it can be traced out through the satellite and remote sensing, and these are
benefits that the people
benefit
will,
to the
common man
and to the people of India, to the country as a whole, and it's boosts up the economy of the country.
Absolutely. So, as a foreign minister, as a junior foreign minister, have you received, you must have a lot of countries and a lot of ambassadors and foreign missions must have spoken to you about India's progress in the space sector. So, how do you feel, where do we stand now vis-a-vis, because we are the only fourth country to go into the southern post pole of moon?
Yeah. Before landing the Chandrayaan 3rd to the moon, our space, the ISRO has developed a lot, and many of our friendly countries are technologically, we are helping them. So for example, the small Pacific island and some of the friendly countries, we are sharing the technology. We are allowing them to develop their weather station and remote sensing. Say, for example, Nauru, the smallest island country, they have a lot of rock phosphate, and the first mining was over. Now secondary mining they continue, and they train to us in our ISRO for remote sensing and the depth analysis underground to assess the deposit. So after training, they could conduct the survey of the underground deposit, the secondary mining, how much of quantum is there and how much of investment they. So these are some of the examinations. The example I am giving, it gives a good relation and technology transfer and confidence to India is built up through this technology, space technology.
So this has been a huge quantum jump. One of the examples. And so through this mission success, ISRO has been helping. I mean, our country's foreign policy and as well as helping the younger nations, much
and inspiring the younger
nations, inspiring younger generations also in this field. That's a huge.
You know, in this Chandrayaan, there are 4 Manipuris.
Oh.
We are proud of it also. Of course, they are in the different field. One for the what do you call that, the roser or something like that, no? And that field, another one is in the controlling system, like that, no?
Absolutely. So that is all taken together. It is a massive this thing for the government of India and a massive success for our country, for India. So moving on from there.
No, not only that. In the space technology, Prime Minister Modi not confined to the ISRO only. We also privatize also.
Okay.
The private companies are also coming up and to share some of the space-related production, space-related science. So people's participation is also there.
So, if you can just elaborate on that, this private this thing on space that you are talking about at the moment, that Prime Minister Modi has given the private allowing private participation. So, does it pertain to foreign countries also?
Certainly. Same thing. the product of the private party on space element. They can excel it, they can export it, and that's why the technology transfer is there.
It's taking place. So now you have been the Minister of State for External Affairs for quite some time. Now the election is knocking at the door, and you have visited several countries. So what satisfaction? Where do you think you are really satisfied? You are very happy, and how do you rate your own performance?
At the beginning, I thought that external affairs, I never imagined that kind of portfolio will be given coming from the Northeast and first time MP. It's a very difficult the portfolio, and also it carries the message of the country and also built up the cemented relationship as well as also promoting the threats and people-to-people connection. I really happy and wonder how Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji is choosing me as a State Minister of the External Affairs and also assigning the Southeast Asia, where my physical appearance is almost same with all the South Asian countries. So whenever I visit in any of the country of the Southeast Asia, they treat me as if they are own the nation. So on the other hand, this has given unlock all those the uneasiness thing has been released when they saw my face. For example, when I visit for the International Yoga Day at the Cambodia and Laos, many of the Cambodians said that you are not Indian. I said that I'm Indian. Then from which part of India? Then this part. Then they realize it. Oh, you are belongs to the Laosan groups. I'm also. They say that you are a San people. So San communities are there. So maybe. So from that ease of dealing, we can develop a lot. So. During my short visit, short span of the ministership here, many of the country, through my earlier my predecessor has already planned. Say for example, Joy Shankar ji was the foreign secretary for quite a long. He know the global movement and everything is in his fingertip. And another thing is that the office of the external Mantralois, the ministerial office of the external affairs, is a wonderful thing. It's a very systematic and very protocol types. Even the word, even the dress, even the sitting pose, these are all
set to protocol.
In a system. So I cannot speak everything also, but that has to be the balancing. And also before visiting to that particular country, I have to know their what kind of language, what kind of the culture, and what
background knowledge.
Background knowledge has to be.
So the areas that you looked after, that the countries that you went, especially Southeast Asia. So India's relation with Southeast Asia has improved over in your time. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but see, not only they improve, make it revibrant.
Okay.
India and Southeast Asia has a historical relation. One is the Buddhist link, and another one is the Hindu link or Ramayana Mahabharata link. And the Cholas dynasty of the Deccan. All the Indian origins are from this. And even the language, even the culture is still maintained. So that's the whole Southeast Asia. It seems to be extended portion of the Indian subcontinent culturally and religiously. I want to say like this.
Okay. And coming to the other department, the Education Ministry. So what has been your primary aim in the Education Ministry?
Since my career started from the beginning as a educationist, and I have a lot of interest also, but you know, education is a vast subject, and this is also another crucial minister whole of our citizen has to be trained in tune with the changing circumstances and complexities of the world. So that's why our Prime Minister, under his guidance, the National Education Policy 2020 is the compact and total revolutionary or structural change of the Indian education system. Saying so, we are not neglecting our ancient wisdom and tradition. Particularly in this, the National Education Policy, we make revibrant of our ancient system. For example, Nalanda, Takshashila, many the prominent the universities was there 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. So based on that wisdoms and philosophy and the way of learning, combined with the modern technology and digital format and the changing circumstances, this is the combination of the ancient and the changing world. So we are hopefully and we have a full confidence that under this national education policy, our youths, whenever they pass on through this system, they are ready for the 21st century. They are competent for to do any job, and we are built up their mindset with the critical thinkings, and also United Nations Common Development, the National Development Goals, the parameter also fit in this education.
So when we talk about this education, the lot of opposition leaders mention that you are distorting history. How do you react to that?
History? I beg your pardon?
You are distorting history. You are you are only putting in people who are with your party ideology. You are making the students study them, whereas you are neglecting other important leaders.
Perhaps the current national education policy 2020 is a non-biased the system of policy. Say for example, in the medieval period of India, why the earlier policy is not covering the medieval periods, the dynasties who rule India and their contributions, their built up, their architecture, their historical innovation. Why? For the last more than 70 or 75 years, why that portion is left out? We are bringing that portion. So there is no left out to others. We want to depict India's originality, India's contribution, or ancient those contribution left out intentionally or unknowingly, but that we discover and we added. What is the harm to put that things?
Absolutely. Now there are a lot of institutions, there are a lot of complaints which come in that a lot of minority education institutions, they force students to follow certain minority rules for general students. So in this situation, what is your reaction to that?
There is no force. You know, India as a nation, we need to strengthen the nation. And also we, at the same times, we are also appreciating the diversity, multiple diversity of the country, and we treat it as our strength and resource. Based on that, we are bringing the streamline to the one nation's the policy.
So the education will be one nation policy, yes, which covers everything, and you are clearly saying that you are not, I mean, what opposition is alleging, that you are not, you have not deleted any portion of major history of India culture.
What left out is
what was left out earlier has been incorporated now. That is your.
Yeah.
So coming from the education now to something which concerns your state, Manipur. So that has been on the boil for the last 3.5 months, 4 months, maybe more. It slowly started and then it went out of control at a time when everybody started speaking about it, and a lot of people unnecessarily lost their lives. So what is the basic? I mean, you're an MP, member of Parliament for Manipur, you have stayed there, what do you think is the basic problem?
Basically, right from the eruption of that, the violence, I appeal on the true spirit of the Manipur. What is true spirit of Manipur? Manipur is a state having its own history of about 2000 years, and single dynasty rule till now. Of course, the monarchy is not there, and it has it is recognized by the world for the the world famous polo. It was first play in Manipur. There are many backgrounds, and Manipur culture and civilization and even the language and the heritage is the product of the composite multiple communities, ethnic communities. We have about 34-35 ethnic communities. We were all symbiosis, and each and every language of the so-called Manipuri language is the accumulation of all those communities' language, and that also we use one of the what do you call the beauty of the language. Even the water, if you write the water in Manipuri language in the poetic poems, you will use some of the tribal language, ethnic language. It's a what you call, I do not know in a language term. It's the stylish type of the wordings are used. So ultimately, what happened? Basically, Manipur is the offshoot of the ancient Indian civilization, which link with the Southeast Asia. And that area was so peaceful during the king's time, having all the Vaishnavite, Ramanandi Dharma, and also the what you call Hindu Dharma. With all these things, our ancient tradition has been grown up. For example, Ras Leela. It was our ancient dance with the spiritual and theme of the philosophy of Radha and Krishna. Then it grows up to the classical form. So that's why after adoption of the Hinduism, then some group of the Brahmins, they might have rejected those hill people who they wanted to join the Hinduism. That time Brahma Sabha was there, and they charging high. That time currency is very costly, materials are cheap, and that time they cannot afford. They were not satisfied. Those ancestors of the hill highlanders. And then ultimately the Westerners are coming, the Americans, the baptizing peoples coming, and they started first to Manipur, Imphal Valley. That time the climax of Hinduism is there. So no one was accepted except one, Mr. Ango, his name is. He is the cook of the American the Pettigrew. He spread, he convert the hill tribes peoples into Christian.
Okay.
So, so after that, the beliefs is different.
And that's how the ethnic tribes start.
Yeah, the hill peoples are almost converted to Christian. The valley are confined to the Hinduism. Then some way of untouchability type of thing has evolved. And that was the reef was given, and ultimately when the British come, then again they separated the hill administration by the Darbar. Darbar is headed by the the British, and the Maharaja is looking after the valley. And then when we joined to the Indian Union, again the constitutional provision, again following the what you call legacy of the British style, Hill Area Committee and the plain general people. So these are the basic differences at the beginning. And ultimately what happened, the Maharaja of Manipur have a military alliance with the British, and when they occupied the control on forming of the British India, they occupied the Burma also. Though generally the current ethnic who is conflicting with Manipur is basically they originated from the Burma. And they were allowed by the king on the request of the British to settle in Manipur, first wave of those groups, and that we call it all Kuki. All means Purana.
Okay.
And they were all assimilated with the system and lifestyle and culture of Manipur. They are as if Manipuri, original Manipuri. Otherwise, Naga and Meiteis are the original settlers. And then they came then assimilated with us. We were so happily contributing each others and forming the modern Manipur. Then of course India got independent in 1947, Burma got in 1948. The the Prime Minister Unu was dethroned by
General
Nevin of Burma. General Nevin dethroned. The army rules was imposed, and then he ruled for about a decade. During that decade, ethnic cleansing was there. Non-Burman groups were driven out. All the Indians, Tamils, Bengalis, and even Meiteis and Assamese were driven out from Burma during that 60 to 68 or 69 disparate. And that was the huge, the migrants were pushed to Indian soil. And that time, Punjabis, Bengalis, and Tamil, some Tamil groups and some Punjabi groups are stationed in Tamu, More town, in the border town of the Manipur. So, along with that, many of the Kukisins were also driven out, and they settled it to Churachandpur. And the name Churachandpur, how it gives, there was no settlement at that time, only some Meiteis were settled in the Kurga Valley and others. Before the Kukis are settling to that place, the Meiteis are the settlers. The name itself is given after the visit of Surachan Maharaj.
Okay.
When he visited that site, the name was given Churachandpur, and that is the historical background. Then ultimately, those Kukisin brothers and sisters who were driven out from the Myanmar was settled in Churachandpur and Tengnopal area, Chandel area, and that too, no problem. We are all assimilated, and nobody is aware that in the far-flung area where the administration could not effectively reach there, they were settled. Then during the 1980s, the pro-democracy movement started Aung San Suu Kyi, and many again driven out, including the Burman group. Those Burman group were returned to their Myanmar, and some has changed their nationality, citizenship has changed to some other country. But those Kukisin brothers and sisters who were also driven out from that, other ethnic communities, Karen, Kasin, Sans, were also driven out. All those students who are involved in the pro-democracy movement, they rushed to us. So many of them returned back, but the community, particular community, is not back. They are also there. But up to that, the saturation level, I presume that the illegal migration saturation is already saturated.
Saturated.
Then in 2020, 21, again the Myanmar politics has again coup by the British army. And that time, against the military authority, and these groups, these ethnic groups, were attacked to the Myanmar army groups, and they operated and flushed out. They were run inside it, inside India, with all these sophisticated arms. Perhaps you might have seen in Chittagong and Chin Hills, they have their own the platform, they create, they train, everything is there, no? So that is the things. You know, Manipur geographically is a unit one unit. It cannot be separated. All are hills. More than 92% is a hilly terrains. Only remaining 8% is so-called plain. It's an intermountain plain. You cannot compare with the Ganga Basin or Brahmaputra Basin. It's a small hillock plain. In that plain, more than 60% of population is concentrated. And the remaining hill areas, 92% is the population percentage. Earlier it was only 35. And only when we know that the illegal migrations are outnumbering the original settlers, then the so-called major community like Meiteis and Naga, they feel that, they feel insecure in terms of land resource, in terms of economic, in terms of political rights. Then they have some psychosis of that. And in the meantime, the illegal immigration number is increasing. We are not blindly saying. If you see the 1971, 81, 91 census, there are certain areas where the population is unnatural, our growth rate, fertility rate is lower, but how the population is increased, that is another questionable. But recently, United Nations, UNHCR, they publish, because of the present political situations, the Sagang district of Myanmar, most of the ethnics were illegally entered to northeastern India, particularly Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram, about 53,000 of population during the last 2-3 years. And it's proved that. And our land area is limited. Forest classification was done as early as 1933 during the Durbar Resolution, by the Durbar Resolution. And that when we are joining with the Indian Union, whatever Durbar resolve is in toto accepted by the government of India, and also new gazette was issued as early as 1960s. So there was no question of newly the conversion of reserve forest or protected forest, but that was not there. But of course, if we see politically, the previous government, they are not conscious on this issue, and there are many the issues were evolved because of the previous government. They are not looking they are not far-sighted.
They did not tackle the issue.
Yeah, they just how they passed the times with some of the resolution made by them. Say, for example, in Kangnatombi and Kangpokpi, it's an area of assembly constituency is not reserved, it's a general. So in that area, what happened, there were about 5 Nagar Panchayat. Why the Congress government in the year 2012 or 14, they converted to Hill Area Committee? Even the More town, there was a small town committee. During that time, Meitei can be the commissioner, Punjabi, Tamil, and tribal peoples are also in the town committee member. But now once it is converted to ADC, it's only for tribal areas. So they dominated slowly and they were driven out, all those peoples. So this kind of administrative the blunder creating all this problem. Not only that, creation of the 15th district is also another blunder that I do not like to explain.
Blunder by the Congress government?
Yes.
Now tell me one thing, people say drugs are a free flow in Manipur coming from this is part of the golden triangle why has the government not been able to control drug trade in Manipur?
Actually, in some of the publications by some journalists already mentioned that 10% of the golden triangle products was shifted to Northeast India. And also earlier Northeast India, including Manipur, is a drug peddler's route. Now it's transformed into hub of drug manufacture. And for that, those illegal immigrants, their source of earning is the poppy plantations. And there was some economic intelligence also published 3-4 months ago. A huge amount was encased in the region, particularly Nagaland, Mizoram or Manipur. So from where source that money is coming and for what purpose it was engaged within the shortest possible time, whether that amount is used for poppy plantation or to the current ethnic violence. And these are some of the things which has to be critically observed and analyzed.
So that is part of the drug thing. So do you think the government has done enough to stop the drug menace?
We need a strong policy. It should be policy-based, control system should be there. Of course, we have national level, the many narcotic bureaus, national bureaus, they have all the rules and regulation. Even then, in a specific state like Manipur, the state should have certain kind of policy. And that has to be, of course, they all are human beings. They have to be rehabilitated or transforming the poppy plantation to other economic plantation or value-added production should also be created. In the meantime, the illegal immigration should also be filtered.
So you have a very porous border between Myanmar and India. So anybody and the terrain is very, very difficult. How do you control border human smuggling across the border? How do you control infiltration?
That's why border management should be strengthened. And on the other hand, there are many agreements between India and Myanmar, and also international law provide that at least some about 16 kilometers in and outs are permissible to move. And also they are the same ethnic community is a transboundary population issues. The same site is also the same ethnic community, this site also same ethnic community. They are intermarriages also culturally they are joining. So the main factor, what I assume is that the political environment of our neighboring country is not hospitable. On the other hand, India as a democratic country is a hospitable. Every citizen has every right constitutionally protected. So on the other hand, those sites are not properly the human rights or political rights or are not so conducive to the citizen. So they are pushed out from that area.
And coming this side.
We are calling, I think we are
you are inviting them over to
because of the Indian democratic
system. So one thing that I lastly want to ask you here, because a lot of people have heard a lot of theories about Manipur. So what is the way forward peace formula for Manipur at the moment according to you? What is the peace formula for Manipur in short?
I already mentioned that Manipur, the so-called Manipur, the present territorial boundary of Manipur is a natural single unit. It cannot be separated. It is adopted with the people who are settled right from the early beginnings, So it's no ADC, no
differential
No separate is there.
administration.
No, it's not the way to solve it.
So what's the solution?
Solution is that the spirit of Manipur should be revigorated, and also the rules and regulations of the government, particularly about the illegal migration and others, drug plantation, that has to be strengthened in a proper way. And all the state machineries, including the census operations and the issue of Aadhars, should be in the proper way, not in the proxy or not in the duplicacy. And even all the electoral rolls should also be recast. Then that is the way how to control the growing issues. But on the other hand, my best simple the idea is that to bring back the peaceful Manipur, we should always remember the spirit of Manipur, and idea of India has to be appreciated. And this is the only the point, and that has to be considered as a focal point to bring peaceful to Manipur.
Lastly, it was very unfortunate that your house was attacked and portion of it was burned down. You lost a lot of very important books and many other things. When do you plan to rebuild your house and bring it back to its lost glory?
Yes, I feel emotion, the attack by the group of my communities. Perhaps they are politically biased or maybe jealous. One time, of course, I am not a seasoned politician. I just from my professional then joined to politics, and the people give the confidence with me, and with that confidence of the people, I participate in the Indian politics, and I participate at the national level. There are certain political parties who are biased. Particularly to me also. They thought that, oh, he is a mere registrar of the university, and how he comes to the ministerial level. That is their assumption. But I would like to appeal to all the people of Manipur. At least the people of Manipur, particularly the youths and politicians, should have the guts of self-respect. If the people who are in the politics and who are in the age group, if they do not have the self-respect among ourselves, then that is not the symptom of civilization. They should remember that. If they want to survive as a Manipuri or as a Meitei, there should be the self-respect. And of course, see, if you see in most of the social media uploaded from my community, they are making mockeries to the leaders, to their elected peoples. And if they know the system of the Indian parliamentary system, when we will speak, how to speak, many of the so-called academicians are also not known. So when they discuss in the local platform, they always criticize without knowing the system.
Facts.
And that is not...
That's not correct.
That is not wise.
So when do you plan to rebuild your house?
I don't have money. I am seeking philanthropy people to help me. And of course, the burning of house. The house was also constructed during my service time with the loan from Baroda Bank and transferred to the State Bank. And so at the end of my service, I anyhow repaid to that loan with interest. And that is purely my sweats earned money's building. And of course, building, I may renovate it if my resource is developed. But my only worried and agony is that I have a collection of about 30-40 years collection of records and documents. And I associated some of my relatives, who was the first Chief Minister of Manipur, my paternal uncle. Whenever he discussed with me, he also provided me many records, even the Darbar resolutions, all the administrative reports published during the British, and that were burned down. I do not know, in a civilized world, a group of community, my own community, are targeting to burn the books and journals and record. And this is not the way, and this is not the character of a civilized community.
Absolutely.
So I appeal my younger generations, younger groups, at least if we want to show the community as one of the civilized and also having historical background, and also the place of the world famous polo is there, and also the one of the mega biodiversity of the area. So if we want to have and stand by our own foot and participating with the empowerment of ourselves, book is compulsory, record is compulsory, journal is compulsory, reading is at most it should be done. But majority of the peoples are all the easygoing. In a sense, they want to spend their life easily.
I understand. So that's the mental agony that Rajkumar Ranjan Singh went through when his portion of his house was burned down. More than the portion of the house that was burned down, he is still distraught over the fact that very important books and archive materials were lost in the fire. But he did mention that there is a way forward as far as the Manipur crisis is concerned. There is a solution to the crisis. He's given a prescription for the solution, and with a lot of hope in our mind, we thank Dr. Rajkumar Ranjan Singh for his comments and for spending time with us, answering a variety of questions right from Chandrayaan to education to the situation in Manipur, and we really hope that everything comes back to normal, peace prevails in Manipur. Thank you very much, Professor Singh. Thank you very much for watching ANM News, and we will definitely come back with more such interesting interviews in future. Keep watching ANM News. Namaskar.
আরো খবরের আপডেট পেতে সাবস্ক্রাইব করুন আমাদের ইউটিউব চ্যানেলটি আর বেল আইকনে ক্লিক করুন নোটিফিকেশনস পেতে।